say he fought with a broken hand and norovirus against Ankalaev.
It has come out recently, actually. Joe Rogan said that you had a hand injury and you were dealing with the norovirus before the fight. Is any of this true?
After the Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira fight, I saw a lot of Alex Pereira fans, potards if you will, saying that Alex Pereira was robbed. This was a brutal robbery. Alex Pereira won round 1, 3, and 5. And there is really no case for Alex Pereira winning this fight. Magomed Ankalaev completely dominated in every single fashion. He outstruck Pereira. He outgrappled Pereira. Even though he didn't get a takedown, he was still holding him up against the fence. And after the recent Ariel Helwani interview, it seemed like he was giving some excuses, saying that he was sick and that he had a broken hand. And listen, if you have a broken hand, you should not be going into a championship level fight. But he does have that kickboxing mentality. I know that he always has to fight. You know, the kickboxers fight a lot more often than some of these other combat sports fighters. And I'm not saying that he's particularly lying. You know, he did save UFC 300, UFC 303, and UFC 307 all on short notice. So he really stepped up in the year of 2024, and it wouldn't be surprised if he did have some injuries. I'm just saying you should not be going into a title fight with these injuries, man. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down why Magomed Ankalaev wins the second fight easier than the first one. So let's just hop right into it. The strengths of Magomed Ankalaev: he has a good parry, as shown in the Alex Pereira fight. You know, he was really keeping Alex Pereira at range. He wasn't letting Alex Pereira be the first to hit. He was keeping that left hand of Alex Pereira at bay, and it obviously worked in the fight. He also has great defense. There was a couple times where I thought he got hit clean in the Alex Pereira fight, but then I went back and watched the fight in slow-mo, and this guy has some great defense. There wasn't really a time where I saw Magomed Ankalaev was rocked, besides maybe the 5th round where the head kick got through from Alex Pereira. Besides that, this was a clear domination from Magomed Ankalaev. He also has great teeps, keeping Alex Pereira at bay and not letting him close the distance and getting those short hooks that he's quite known for. As well as Ankalaev has a great chin. He was hit, I think, a couple of times in the fight cleanly and flush, and he seemed to just shrug it off. So either that or he has a great poker face. Either way, he also has good grappling. I know what you're going to say. He did go 0 and 12 for takedowns, but he is able to mix in the takedowns, something that Alex Pereira doesn't do. Imagine if Alex Pereira mixed in the takedowns with his grappling. He'd be probably one of the best fighters of all time. Also, Magomed Ankalaev is primarily a counter striker. Going into this fight, a lot of people were under the impression that Magomed Ankalaev was just a grappler. Now we'll go into the weaknesses of Alex Pereira. I feel like Magomed Ankalaev's strengths play right into Alex Pereira's weakness, and this is just a stylistically terrible matchup for Alex Pereira. You know, Alex Pereira has terrible defense. Let's just be real here. He likes to do that mummy guard that Sean Strickland does, you know, keeping the hands up and leaving your chin open if you get around the guard, that's exactly what Magomed Ankalaev was doing in their first fight. He was getting around the guard of Alex Pereira, as well as Pereira leaves his chin up in the air when he does that mummy guard. And that is a clear problem. He needs to work on keeping that chin down and just not leaving himself so exposed. He also has a square stance, and this was proven against the Ankalaev fight because Ankalaev's teeps were working all day. You know, he was just too squared, and the middle was just exposed to Ankalaev. That's why he was landing that teep all day. Alex Pereira is not as good on the back foot. You know, that's the case with a lot of these strikers. There's not too many that are good on the back foot. You know, against these pressure heavy strikers, you get them going backwards and they're a completely different fighter. The last weakness I would say is that Alex Pereira has a suspect chin. I know you guys are probably going to try and cope with this, but Alex Pereira gets hurt a lot in his fights. If it's not a stylistically favorable matchup, you know, against Yuri Prohaska, Jamal Hill, you know, he was getting rocked against Israel Adesanya. He got rocked in the first fight. He got knocked out in the second fight. He got rocked against Khalil Roundtree. He actually got dropped against Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree is very fast. And yeah, he recovered well, but he also did almost get finished in the second round against Magomed Ankalaev. I already knew this going into the lightweight division. I thought that the power against these heavier guys was going to be a problem, and it proved to be so. As I was saying, he has a good teep as shown in this clip here, keeping Alex Pereira at bay, not letting him get into his striking range and his flow. Another thing about Alex Pereira that is a big weakness towards somebody like Magomed Ankalaev is that he kicks a lot. That's definitely something that worked for his past opponents, against his past opponents. But since Magomed Ankalaev is such a counter striker, he's going to try to time that kick, and you're going to be on one foot, so you're not going to be able to evade. You're going to be staying still while you're kicking. And in this sequence here, he caught him on one leg, and then he went for the 1-2, and he got caught. And this was a common theme throughout the whole fight. The 1-2 against Magomed Ankalaev was just working. It was getting through the guard of the terrible defense of Alex Pereira. And another thing that kind of plays into what I said, if you put Alex Pereira on the back foot, as shown in this sequence, look at this here. He tries to go in for a kick. He ends up bailing. And while he's on the 1 foot, like I said, Magomed Ankalaev, this is his chance to blitz. And he does. He ends up rocking Alex Pereira at the end of the second round, and the time pretty much saved him here. If Magomed Ankalaev had 30 more seconds, I think we could have seen a finish in this fight in just the second round. So the bell definitely saved his ass pretty much. And if we see here, he's consistently parrying, keeping Alex Pereira at bay, not letting him get into his striking sequence. And this is something that not a lot of fighters have done against Alex Pereira. Something very basic that, you would have thought that somebody would have at least tried the technique. But Ankalaev's team definitely has Pereira's just style down to the T, the counters to be able to knock him out. And you see here, he keeps him at bay, and then he goes in for the left hook, and Magomed Ankalaev goes in for a takedown. He didn't end up getting the takedown, but like I said, he was holding him up against the fence. And in the judges' eyes, this is something that is favorable. I mean, a lot of these newer style fighters, the Mario Batistas, the Marab against Jose Aldo, he did this as well against great strikers. You can hold him up against the fence. I know it's not the best to watch, but I mean, it's just a part of the game, and I was actually quite impressed right here. Pereira was able to twist his neck and get out of the clinch, and ultimately exiting the clinch. The knees in the clinch were also affecting Pereira. Pereira's the type of fighter that, if you hit him clean, he's always going to try and get his get back, and that could be the downfall to him since Magomed Ankalaev is such a good counter striker. And as you can see in this sequence here, Alex Pereira is doing the mummy guard, leaving his chin right up in the air. Magomed Ankalaev goes in for, and he hits him with the 2 right on the chin. His arm was down here, punch up here, pretty much like this, leaving his chin right open. And against somebody like Magomed Ankalaev, he's going to find these openings, and he's going to knock out Alex Pereira in the second fight. I'm here to say it first. Alex Pereira is getting knocked out in the second fight against Magomed Ankalaev. He got hit clean in the chin. This was the 5th round, so, it probably didn't pack as much power. They were already tired. But he was already hitting him with this same exact combo in the beginning of the fight. So Alex Pereira wasn't able to see this coming from him, due to his terrible defense. In conclusion, it's big Ank time. Alex Pereira, I do see him losing the second fight, probably by TKO. I see Magomed Ankalaev being able to capitalize on the counters. Alex Pereira leaving his chin open all the time, constantly mummy guarding. And yeah, that's it for the breakdown for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section.